You're listening to the AI Podcast Experience, where artificial intelligence drives deep, curious, and thought-provoking conversations.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Ever stop to wonder why some, random thing online suddenly blows up, everyone's talking about it, while tons of other stuff just vanishes?
Right, into the digital void.
Exactly. That's what we're digging into today. The magic, or maybe it's more science behind what makes content go viral.
Yeah, we've been looking at, how we all interact with information online, what grabs our attention, how the platforms themselves are designed. Our goal really is to kind of get under the hood and figure out those key ingredients for you. What actually turns something into a full-blown internet sensation?
Okay, so let's start with the basics then. Why does content even begin to spread? It feels like, anything could take off, but only some things actually do.
Well, the most obvious thing probably is just how easy it is to share now. I mean, it's literally a tap or a click,
Right.
and suddenly you're a broadcaster, effectively. That really low bar means a single post has the potential, at least, to reach a massive number of people very, very quickly.
True. It's almost too easy, isn't it? I know I've definitely hit share without giving it a second thought sometimes. Is that a big part of it?
Oh, absolutely. A lot of sharing is almost automatic. We're scrolling through our feeds, something catches our eye, maybe it's funny, maybe it's shocking, and we just pass it along without really engaging our critical thinking sometimes. It's like a digital reflex.
And with so much information flying around all the time, it must put pressure on, say, news outlets too, to jump on trends fast, even if they haven't fully checked things out.
That's a really great point. Yeah, the constant news cycle, especially, fueled by social media, creates this pressure cooker.
Right.
Journalists see something trending, they feel the need to report on it immediately, which, can sometimes mean relying on information that hasn't been thoroughly verified yet.
So it's not always just people spontaneously sharing things they like or find interesting. There are definitely groups who try to make things go viral on purpose, right?
Oh, for sure. Whether it's to push a certain agenda or maybe just to stir things up. Precisely. We see coordinated efforts to amplify certain messages or even deliberately spread false information. The internet makes it incredibly easy for groups to work together, even if they're miles apart, to try and make something trend.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting, I think. We've seen that different kinds of information spread in very different ways.
Yeah.
It's not like everything has an equal chance.
No, not at all. And what's fascinating, maybe a bit concerning, is how consistently false information manages to travel further and faster online than the truth.
Further and faster.
Yeah, across all sorts of topics.
Wait a minute, you're saying lies are actually more contagious online than facts? How much more are we talking?
The data we've looked at is pretty stark, actually. While a true story might reach, say, a few hundred people, maybe 1,000 in a best-case scenario, the top, 1% of fake stories routinely spread to tens or even hundreds of thousands of people. It's a completely different scale.
Wow. So misinformation has this kind of built-in advantage in the online world. Why is that? Is it just juicier?
Well, think of it like this. At each point where someone sees a piece of content and decides whether to share it, false content just tends to reach more people than true content does.
Huh.
It's like the branches of a fake news story just keep extending wider and faster than a real one.
And it doesn't just reach more people eventually. It gets there much quicker, too. Is that right?
Exactly. False content can hit what you might call critical mass, say, reaching 1,500 people about 6 times faster than the truth.
6 times faster.
Yeah. And if you look at how many times it gets shared and reshared, those cascades, as they're sometimes called, well, they go much deeper and happen much faster for false information.
Much faster are we talking for those cascades?
It can reach 10 levels of sharing, something like 20 times faster than a true story.
20 times. That's unbelievable.
So the speed at which misinformation can just engulf the online landscape is really critical here. It's not just if it spreads, but how quickly it can dominate the conversation.
Is there something about the nature of false information itself that makes us want to pass it on more? Like, what's the hook?
Well, one factor seems to be novelty. False news tends to feel newer, maybe more surprising than true news.
Right.
And we humans, well, we're kind of wired to pay attention to and share things that seem new or breaking.
That makes total sense. We all like to feel like we're in the know, don't we?
Yeah.
But is this just because of bots? Automated accounts flying the internet with fake stuff?
That's a key question, definitely. But the research we've seen suggests that it's primarily our own behavior driving this.
Really? Not bots?
Well, bots actually seem to spread both true and false stories at roughly the same speed. It's our tendency as humans to click share on misleading or fabricated content more readily that seems to be the main engine here.
So it really comes down to us and our reactions.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a bit unsettling.
It is.
Now, you mentioned earlier that false stories tend to trigger different emotions than true ones. What kind of feelings are we talking about?
Yeah, this is where our psychology really comes into play. False stories often tap into emotions like fear, disgust, and surprise.
Okay.
True stories, on the other hand, they're more likely to evoke feelings like anticipation, maybe joy, and trust.
Fear and surprise. Those definitely make you sit up and pay attention. Is there a reason why those kinds of emotions might make us more likely to share?
Well, psychology tells us that certain emotions tend to prompt us to take action, right? To do something with the information.
Okay, mobilizing emotions.
Exactly, sometimes called activity mobilizing emotions. And interestingly, both positive and negative emotions can have this effect. News that sparks positive ones, like fascination and awe, gets shared a lot.
Right, like something amazing.
Yeah, but so do negative emotions like anger, fear, and indignation. They seem to have a pretty similar social transmission rate.
So these are the feelings that make us want to do something with the information, like share it or comment or just talk about it.
Precisely. Whether it's something that blows your mind in a good way or something that just makes your blood boil, you're more likely to pass along.
That really clarifies why we see certain types of content just dominating online discussions sometimes. Okay, what about timing? Does posting something at a specific moment make a big difference?
Well, the internet is just so immediate, isn't it? Trends can appear and vanish incredibly quickly.
Yeah, blink and you miss it.
Exactly. So while the stuff we looked at doesn't pinpoint like the absolute best time to post down to the minute,
Sure.
the sheer speed of online sharing strongly suggests that getting in early on a developing conversation or trend is crucial. If you can catch that initial wave of interest, your content has a much higher chance of reaching a wider audience faster.
So it's about riding that wave right at the beginning. Makes sense.
Now, we can't talk about things going viral without looking at social media itself. How do these platforms actually contribute to this whole phenomenon? Oh, they're central. Social media platforms are really the fuel that powers the viral engine. Their entire design is, well, it's built around sharing.
How so?
Think about it. The buttons to share, retweet, tag friends, they make it incredibly easy to amplify content with just, a few taps. Minimal friction.
And as we touched on earlier, people often share without really thinking critically. Does the way social media is set up kind of encourage that?
It can, yeah. The constant stream of information, the sheer volume of content we scroll through every day, it can lead to what feels like information overload.
Definitely.
And in that environment, we're probably more likely to react quickly and share impulsively rather than taking the time to really evaluate what we're seeing.
It definitely feels overwhelming sometimes just trying to keep up with everything. I can see how that might lead to less careful engagement with individual posts.
Exactly. The experience on social media can be quite intense, a constant influx of messages, updates. It can contribute to a less discerning approach to sharing, for sure.
And I think a lot of us feel this maybe underlying pressure to present certain image online, to get those likes and comments. How does that desire for social validation play into what goes viral?
Oh, social comparison is a huge driver of what we do on social media.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We want to be seen in a certain light, and often the number of likes, comments, followers, it feels like a measure of that, doesn't it?
Yeah, it kind of does.
So when content taps into those desires for validation or maybe plays on shared social experiences, it can spread really quickly as people seek to participate and present themselves in a way that they think will be well received by their network.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
We also see these specific formats take off all the time, like memes and those short, kitschy videos. Even though our sources today don't dive into their exact mechanics, it feels like those visual elements must be a key part of why things go viral.
Absolutely. I mean, while we don't have specific research on meme structure in front of us today, the way we share things online naturally includes these visual formats.
Right, they're everywhere.
And memes and short videos, they can convey emotions or humor very effectively and very, very quickly, which aligns perfectly with those emotional triggers we were just talking about.
Yeah.
Their easily digestible and shareable nature just makes them incredibly potent in the viral landscape. They're bait for speed.
Okay, finally, let's talk about algorithms. We hear so much about them controlling what we see online. How much influence do they really have on what goes viral?
Well, social media companies definitely use algorithms that filter and prioritize content. That's clear. They might downrank or even block certain types of material, especially things flagged as sensitive or, inappropriate, like NSFW content.
So they act as a kind of gatekeeper then.
Yeah, to some extent. They definitely shape what gets initial visibility.
But it sounds like they don't have the final say on absolutely everything.
That's right. The platforms themselves also make decisions about content moderation that go beyond just what the algorithms automatically detect.
Like what?
Well, think about decisions like reinstating a high-profile account after it was banned. That shows there's a human element, often a policy decision, involved as well, not just code.
And it's not just the big platforms making these calls either, is it?
Yeah.
I've heard about how moderators on places like Reddit have their own rules for their specific communities.
Exactly. Content moderation can be very localized, very decentralized sometimes. On platforms like Reddit, the moderators of individual communities, those subreddits, have a lot of control over the rules and what gets seen within their specific groups.
So algorithms are important, but they're not the only factor.
Not at all. Human decisions at different levels of these platforms play a really significant role in what ultimately gains visibility and potentially goes viral.
Okay, so if we boil it all down then, it seems like what makes something trend online is this real mix of factors. How incredibly easy it is to share, whether it pushes our emotional buttons, especially things like surprise, fear, fascination, anger, maybe awe.
The strong reactions.
Yeah. Hitting that sweet spot in terms of timing, catching the wave early, and just the way we all interact and behave on social media. And while algorithms have an impact, they aren't the ultimate puppet masters controlling everything.
That's a great summary, yeah. And I think the key takeaway, really, is the power of human behavior in this whole process, particularly when it comes to how quickly and widely misinformation can spread compared to factual stuff. Our choices, what we engage with, what we decide to pass on, they have a huge effect.
Right, our clicks matter.
They really do. They shape what becomes the next big thing online.
So maybe next time you're scrolling through your feed, take a moment to think about why a particular piece of content is grabbing your attention. What elements might give it that potential to explode? Are you feeling a strong emotion about it?
Okay.
And maybe consider how the platform you're actually on might be subtly shaping what you see and ultimately what you decide to share with the rest of us.
Good food for thought.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.
Thanks for listening to the AI Podcast Experience. Hit that subscribe button, share it with a friend, and catch us every week with new AI-generated episodes available on Spotify and YouTube.